So it's been announced that the government is going to appoint a Crown observer, we'll try that again in English, observer, over the Wellington City Council. And yeah, like we said earlier, Chewy, Tory Whanau seems to be very chill about it. And I am wondering why. Let's have a look at the story.
The squabbling Wellington City Council's getting a babysitter, and the capital's embattled mayor is welcoming the appointment of a Crown observer, saying it could be a good thing. But Tory Whanau also admits the council needs to do better. Infighting's meant it has to rework its long-term plan, critical to the city's future. Abby Wakefield's been covering the story and has today's developments.
Wellington's ageing and leaking pipes,
grief.
just one factor that led to Simeon Brown calling Tory Whanau with news of an intervention.
When I spoke to Mayor Tory Whanau just over an hour ago and said that the government will be putting in place a Crown observer.
The mayor says the call was cordial.
I welcome his intention to bring in an observer.
He's saying you need help running the council, basically.
Yes.
Wellingtonians mixed on the development.
I think it's actually probably a good idea.
They haven't gone far enough. We should have a commissioner in charge.
Why?
Because the city's out of control with the council.
This is what they're saying, right? It's a shambles, this guy on the street, they're out of control. But I guess what I'd like to say, Chewy, what I'm saying to you is that if that is the case, that kind of information hasn't been released yet. All we've heard about, as far as I've read, is the airport shares not going through. Shambles. We're going to take over. So we now know about infighting. So in other words, if the council is not functioning well enough because of infighting, i.e. there are people within the council stopping anything passing, yeah, they need some help. But it's like, I feel like I'd love to have Tory on. I've messaged her a couple of times, but obviously she's not doing media stuff at the moment. And say, can you give me the lineup of things that are wrong to be described as a shambles and to need to have a babysitter? You know, because for me, there must be a lot to get to this point. But as the public, we're only finding out about like one or two small things. You know what I mean?
I would love to know who this gentleman voted for. Like who was his pick for mayor and council. Because this sort of just... yeah, fuck it, bring in a commissioner, speaks to someone that is very comfortable with losing a democratic say in how his city's run. So he must be very confident on where the shoe's going to fall for him. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's fair. Like if someone says, like my yardstick for the central government to swoop in and appoint a commissioner to overrule every democratically elected councillor, whether I agree with them or not, that's a big call. It didn't seem to be particularly popular in Tauranga. I'm just saying he's a little bit laissez-faire about the whole thing.
Well, yeah, and there are some councillors saying he jumped too soon, old wee Simeon, but I just want the details. I mean, I guess we always say this. The truth is in the details. Give us all the details.
I think when it comes down to it, an observer is probably a good idea. And I think Tory Whanau is playing a very straight bet on this and going, yeah, cool. It's not you want to see what's going on, an observer is going to tell you what's going on. I think she's played that 100% correct.
Soft Starlight said he probably voted for Nikki No Boats. There you go. We'll keep going, shall we?
It's dysfunctional in my view.
I'm unsure about that. I am very suspicious of the current government and I have very little confidence in them.
We really don't want the government interfering in council affairs.
The minister says advice from officials highlighted concerns, including council having to relitigate its long-term plan, its funding of water infrastructure work and councillors themselves.
There's a lack of confidence in terms of the fact that they will be able to resolve these issues based on the behaviour of the council.
In coming to his decision, the Minister has fairly pointed out instances where councillors have walked out of meetings, refused to vote, and have also publicly criticised each other and council staff.
So that doesn't sound like it's really anything to do with the mayor, like, because she's getting all the flack at the moment. But it sounds like there's some difficult, and maybe that's why she's so relaxed. Maybe she's like, oh, finally, a co-teacher to come and look after all these naughty kids. Maybe that's what it is.
I hope this intervention serves as a reminder to councillors that actually we all hold incredibly important roles on behalf of our city, and we must do better.
Concern also raised how the council is funding water repairs from rates instead of borrowing. The advice claims that approach to paying for new pipes overcharges residents by more than $700 million over 10 years.
They could be funding and financing that differently and actually reducing the rate burden on ratepayers.
The Mayor disputes that figure.
Through this process also, I look forward to seeing what other solutions the Minister will have in helping us with our water infrastructure issues.
The government now set to closely observe as a broken council tries to fix broken pipes and its finances.
All right, Abby, take the...
So the bit at the end, just so you got clear, and actually there's a story on interest.co.nz as well about it, with a great picture right there. There you go. That says Wellington City should be taking on more debt to limit rate increases and needs a Crown Observer to advise on this process, Local Government Minister Simeon Brown says. So what he's saying is you need to borrow more. Now, I don't think any of us have got a problem with borrowing for infrastructure. It's a good use of debt. But remember, this government has also been just wanting to be really clear on what they're not borrowing for. So the concept of just kind of going, well, you need to borrow more, and because you're not borrowing more, we're going to get a Crown Observer in there. It's the same sort of thing. Coalition government plans to place a Crown Observer on the Wellington City Council as it rewrites its long-term plan following a vote to retain its stake in the city's airport. Left and right-wing councillors joined forces to halt the sale of its 34% share in Wellington Airport, shooting down Mayor Tory Whanau's plan, which would have reduced the city's insurance risk and diversified its investments. The sale could have raised $500 million, which would have been reinvested into a perpetual fund and reduced net debt levels. Now the council will have to revise its long-term plan and potentially cut investment in some infrastructure projects. Local Government Minister Simeon Brown said he was concerned about the council's ability to manage this process and use its financial resources effectively. The Department of Internal Affairs have advised Brown the council was not using its balance sheets appropriately when planning its water infrastructure and insurance risks. Now, we had a bit of a conversation earlier this week, and we wondered about, or we had it passed on to us, about the input from the Willis family, and do they have any say over the whole thing? So finance, this is the same story. Finance Minister Nicola Willis says it was in Whanau's best interest to cooperate. It does sound a bit mafia-like, doesn't it? You know, it would be in your best interest.
You know what's good for you.
If you know what's good for you, to cooperate. And show ratepayers the council was doing everything it could to deliver good outcomes. She was not willing to say the council was not taking on enough debt. Instead, she said many ratepayers didn't think it had been taking, quote, a prudent financial approach to funding long-term assets such as water infrastructure. Ultimately, it's for the council to work through those things. Yeah, but see, that's not true. Because if it was up to the council to work through those things, there wouldn't be an observer. They're specifically talking about the observer helping them through those next stages. So ultimately, it's for the council to work through those things is not accurate. But making sure it has effective financial management in place with balance sheet management and is receiving good advice is one of the matters the Crown Observer can look at. So the Crown Observer is coming in to look at who they're looking at. It's just, yeah. Look, I don't want to say, big government doing it, but because we don't have all the facts, it's hard to say good or bad. I mean, an observer is one step away, or more than one step away, from a commissioner. So it is just someone to sit and see and advise as opposed to take over. So that might be a situation of it can't really hurt. But yeah, Tory Whanau seems incredibly comfortable. It appears that a lot of it's pointing towards councillors being difficult. And it seems that the government, or through Simeon Brown, and I think it's kind of hinted there at Nicola Willis, actually wants the council to borrow more money to levels that are questioned by Tory Whanau. That seems to be a bit of a summary of the whole thing, Chewy.
Absolutely. I think that this is just the most obvious case of this current government coming down on city and regional councils. I know the Otago Regional Council is copping some similar flack over their upcoming, I think it's to do with water rights and climate change and that sort of thing. The government's not happy with how how that council is performing as well. So, I mean, this government is quite happy to just threaten to sweep away local democracy. They talk about localism a lot when it suits them, but certainly not in this case. I noticed a couple of comments on Facebook from Dunedin's former mayor, Aaron Hawkins. This from the minister's announcement that he's appointing a Crown Observer for Wellington City Council. In an earlier section, he decries them for not using financing tools for their capital program that they don't even have access to.
Right.
But it's the first two paragraphs here that the most extraordinary. Politicians acting in a political way is both a dangerously low bar for intervention and entirely consistent with the asinine conservative view that local government is somehow mysteriously apolitical. And I think that is something that we see right throughout local councils in New Zealand, that it's fine to stick your flag up and go, I'm Labour, I'm National, ACT, Green, whatever, in the national sphere. But somehow for local politics, nobody has a bias or a political position, that they're just there for the city. And it is not true. I think it's a fig leaf right throughout this country, whether it's Wellington or here or fucking Gore. Everybody's got a bias in a position.